All right. Joining us now is a gentleman who made some news. Well, actually during New Year's, and then made some news today, the 11th of January, 2023. He just re-signed with a big exclusive contract with Bellator MMA. There he is himself, the mercenary AJ Mckee. Hi, AJ. How are you?
Another day in paradise. I cannot complain. How you doing?
Doing quite well. A lot to get to. I want to start with today's news, then we'll get to your most recent fight and then the calendar ahead. But first things first, Bellator put out a press release saying they had come to an agreement with you, multi-fight, multi-year exclusive contract. Sounds like it all came together pretty quickly. Walk me through how fast all this got done.
Pretty quick. I was given the option to kind of go and scope out some other places and see what I'm worth. They gave me the opportunity to go and see. And yeah, I was just like, yo, got a couple on the table here. And they were like, you know what? Screw that. Let's make it happen. What are we going to do? And my father, my team, and I, we sat down and we figured out what was reasonable, what was right.
Okay, so you did negotiate with some other entities. Is that what it sounds like?
Yes, a little bit. We were in the talks a little bit. Yeah.
Feeling them out to see what the ballpark might be of like what you'd get paid, or what all. I guess I'm trying to figure out like what all were you looking for? Just a certain dollar value?
I would say kind of dollar value. It's kind of like a hand in hand type thing. You know what I mean? Because everybody knows if you want the clout, you want to be this most famous fighter. Like what you got to do, where you got to go. But it's like, I don't give a shit about clout. Clout don't pay bills, you know what I mean? So for me being homegrown in Bellator and my whole career have being held here, for me, I was excited to stay, you know. I really didn't want to go anywhere. There's a lot of things, like I've said for many years, I've been looking forward to doing with endorsements. And that opportunity is still full force here, you know. Any door is possible to open, you know, even if it's closed. McKee got the key. So for me, it's just opening those locked doors. This door is already open. It's been open, and it was just a matter of stepping through and sitting down and talking.
Now, if it's the 11th here, I'm going to guess, was the fight against Roberto Satoshi, was that the last fight on your Bellator deal?
No, that was just a fight to have.
So that was technically a Rizin bout or something, right?
Correct.
Right. So how long, I'm wondering, is from the moment Bellator was like, hey, go figure this out, and then whatever, and then by the time you got back to them, how long are we talking in terms of like the number of days or weeks or whatever?
I think the fight in Japan opened up a lot of eyes, especially just with the way that fight went. You know, Satoshi's jiu-jitsu is next level. So it just shows, you know, the proof's in the pudding. When I come to show out, you know, I'm not taking part. I'm coming in full force every time. So I think Bellator was happy with that fight. And then just this 155-pound tournament, you know, me being in the 155-pound division, nobody knows how good I am at this weight class. So it's another $1 million for me, like, and 8 more names on another world title. Say less. You know, I was a little butthurt the first time going into the tournament and not being champ, but this one, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm coming to kick everybody's ass. Like, it's $1 million. Again, I'm coming for it, you know, and it's a world title, and I get 8 names on it. And yeah, some of those names I've been watching my entire career, and I'm looking forward to fighting some of these dudes.
All right, I want to get to the tournament. Just a couple more questions on the deal, and then we'll move on. One, are you able to say how many fights or how many years the contract is for?
It's 6 fights.
6 fights. That's all. That's a lot. It's a fair. That's a fair amount.
Yeah. Well, you got to figure the tournament's already 3 fights.
Right.
So. Yeah.
That's half the contract. Yeah.
You know, like, if you're gonna stay, you gotta be fair. You know what I mean? You gotta be a little bit fair. So, but yeah, after the tournament, you know, we get a couple more fights in. I'd love to fight Patricio again. So that's another fight. I think it's only right that we fight one last time. And yeah.
And then in terms of the dollar value, would you say it's like how competitive would you say the wage is with what you see out there in the sport?
I don't know. Plead the fifth. I don't think nobody. I'm happy. I'm a
Okay.
happy camper. Let's just leave it at that. I'm
Okay.
solid.
All right,
Yeah.
very good. All right, so let's talk about the future then, which is the tournament. Now, in addition to the news about you coming out today, there was also news about this 155 Grand Prix, which you mentioned. They've put in 2 fights already. Usman Nurmagomedov's going to fight Benson Henderson, and then Mofiq and Alexander have a fight together. But they haven't mentioned you and a few other names, obviously. What have they told you about, like, where they see you, at least to start this tournament?
I don't know. I think honestly, I think what would make sense is Patricky and I just because of the family feud. You know what I mean? His brother and I have been combative back and forth with each other. We're 1-1, so maybe it's Big Brother who comes in and settles this once and for all. And once again, there's another million on the line. So I think that should be the first fight. I think that's the fight to make. I think that's a fight that the people can get behind. Like I've always said, a pit bull's a pit bull. So I'm just looking forward to taking him on a walk.
And then I guess if that would be the quarterfinals, from there, do you have like a strong preference? Like, I guess what I'm wondering is, okay, obviously the goal is to get the whole thing, to win, to get the $1 million, the belt, all the things that come with it. But like, are there individual names on that list aside from Patricky that you would want? Like, is Usman in your mind like who you really want to beat, or is it just, hey, from after Patricky, it can be whoever?
It really don't matter to me. I'm setting my eyes on that $1 million again. You know what I mean? Everybody's 0-0 once again. It's whoever comes out 3-0. That's the man. So for me, I don't really care who it is. You know what I mean? Once they step in front of me, they're gonna have their hands full. Period. And there's some intriguing names though. Like I've watched Benson Henderson since I was a kid. I think that's a hell of a matchup stylistically. I think Usman might have his hands full a little bit with this fight against Benson. So I can't really say who is gonna do what, but I don't know. I mean, Usman's the champ, you know what I mean? So I'm gunning for him, you know what I mean? I always want his neck. That's key, is that belt. But yeah, Benson's a great fight. You got Tafiq, he's a brawler, he's good. You got some nice names in there, you know what I mean? But until I see the bracket where it's laid out, who's where, I'm not worried about it. Like I'm just about to be in the gym training like a madman. I'm out here in London working out. I got a nice little pump in today. It was like, raw, like I'm coming, like I when I'm motivated, it's a fucking problem. Straight up. I like nothing can stop me from training. Nothing can stop me from being in the gym. My dad's probably gonna have to tell me to chill out a little bit. Cause like once I get determined to do something, it's a wrap. Like I don't care what's in my path or what's gonna stop me. Or try
You
to.
mentioned it was something interesting. You mentioned that Henderson might give some problems to Usman, specifically in what ways?
I mean, he's just well-rounded. You know what I mean? He's good on the feet, very agile. His jiu-jitsu's there. His wrestling defense is there. And even if you do take him to the ground, he's still threatening. You know what I mean? He's got slick jiu-jitsu. So that's a fight to watch for sure, especially for me. I can learn a lot from watching them fight. But then again, at the same time, I can kind of analyze what they're doing and see what I need to do and where their weak points are.
Can I just tell you, as a fan of the tournament, and I'm not sure how you'll react to this, I love the idea of you versus Patricky to start. I think that's a great call, but that should be on one side, and I think Usman Nurmagomedov, the existing weight class champion, should be on the other. I think the tournament would go better if some of the other hammers were on the other side of the bracket. And so if there is what everyone wants, which would probably be you versus Usman, it would happen in the finals. I think, and I'm going to wager a fair number of fans probably feel that way.
I mean, that would be smart. I think that's ideal. Yeah, you can't just have a lopsided bracket.
There he is. You with us still?
Yeah, somebody's calling.
That's all right. No worries. All right. So at 155, how do you feel? You've had a couple of runs through it now. You had the Spike Carlisle fight in the cage and MMA rules, or I should say North American MMA rules. And then you had the Satoshi fight, which was 155, but a very different rules in a ring. You've tried it out a couple of times. How do you like the weight class? And more specifically, once you're actually in there, how do you feel like does anything about the game change with the weight class, either for you or for the opponent?
This fight felt a bit easier at 155, I will say. It's just a matter of kind of, like I said, just taking the time to move around with these big dudes and figure out how to maneuver through the fights and use my leverage a bit more. You know, the 45ers I can just kind of toy with, you know, and put them where I want them. Damn.
It's all good. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can kind of put them where I want them. You know, the first fight with Spike, there was a couple of times you could see I went to lift or I went to roll and he wasn't budging at all. So moving into the 55-pound division, you gotta get adjusted a little bit. But I don't know, man. Bigger, better, faster, stronger. That's the motto. You know, I'm feeling a lot healthier, not cutting as much weight, and I feel like I'm just gonna get bigger, faster, and stronger. You know, it's gonna take another probably few months. You know, I'm definitely walking around a bit heavier. I'm up to like 75 now, so that's where I want to be, 75, 180, and then in shape about 175, and then cut to 55s.
Let me ask you a question about something I noticed with your fight against Satoshi, or I should say this, something I feel like I noticed in your fight with Satoshi, but also not just that one, several other ones on that same main card. Like this is true for me in the Archuleta fight as well. You know, what's kind of funny. It's like there are way more, obviously, North American fighters who are on the roster in Bellator than on the roster in Rizin. And as a consequence, I just feel like you get a lot more people with a wrestling base. And with the cage is so wrestling friendly, right? Relative to the ring. Wrestling is just a much bigger part of the Bellator experience than it is the Rizin experience. And like Satoshi can wrestle, and like a lot of those guys on that card could wrestle. But it feels like for the guys who came from Bellator, including you, who just have to deal with that more, even though there's less wrestling in the ring overall, you guys were much better situated for it because you have to deal with it far more often than the people who are fighting in Rizin in the ring. Did you feel like all of the wrestling that happens in the cage really transferred just because there's way more of it than what you might get in the Japanese ring style of MMA?
Nah, I think it's different. MMA wrestling in a cage versus wrestling in a ring is completely different.
So walk me through what's so different about it.
Well, for a fighter like myself, at least, speaking for myself, I like to get people against the cage. Once I get you against the cage, I know I got the takedown. Like, you're not stopping the takedown. I don't care who you are, what you're doing. I get you against the cage, I can take you down. A ring, there's no places to really kind of prop them up against, you know? So it's more like you got to hit the angle, cut the corner, and explosive, like kind of freestyle wrestling. You know what I mean? You get in, you cut the corner, and you get them to the ground. It's just it's a bit more. There's more hazards. You know what I mean? There's more opportunity to get caught in a ring. So yeah, I think it's just taking time to really sit there and train in a ring and put in the hours and rounds so that you become adjusted and you know where you're at, and just be aware of your surroundings. You know, fighting is a lot to do with being aware of your surroundings and what you're doing. So my whole life I've been in a cage. So for me, I'm going to flip off the cage. I know where the cage is. I can utilize the cage a bit more than a ring. And we saw that, you know, once I got him into the corner, I felt like, all right, this is like a cage, you know, I knew where I was at a little bit. And then obviously when the fight was stopped and we moved back to the center, it's like, all right, shit, now you're back in the heat, you know, and I'm not going to walk him back over the cage again. It's like, see what this dude's talking
about. What was the thing you liked the most about the ring? What was the thing you liked? Actually, not just the ring, but that entire, just the fight, not the walkout, nothing else, just the fight itself. What did you like most about that experience? What did you like least?
Soccer kicks and ground and knees to the grounded opponent. That was just, since I was a kid, I've kind of dreamed of throwing those. So Yeah, I was glad I got a couple little good highlight reels of that. What I didn't like, I would say I didn't like just the rule setting, not the rule setting, but um, so when Satoshi took my back, I was pretty much trying to put my arms on the ring so I could like kind of chill for a second, and that's when Jason Gerzar came in, and I was like, oh shit, and I moved my arms, and then he slipped under my arm and then took my back, and I'm like, damn, you know what I mean? And then another time we were on the ground, we stopped right there, and he stopped us and just brought us back to the middle of the ring. I'm like, why? Even Satoshi was like, nah, like we're good. Like leave us here, you know? But whatever.
Yeah, what are you gonna do, I suppose?
Yeah, I was
Now,
throw a little temper tantrum. Be all right.
right, I gotta say, it was overall, it looked like it was a lot of fun. Did you like you had? It seems like you had a lot of fun fighting that way, right?
Yeah, definite. You know, it's not something I would say I'm gonna do every fight to go out
Right.
there. You know, it's you're gonna take a bit more damage in those type of fights. Shorter career, obviously, but definitely something I could do a couple times a year, hands down.
Now, speaking of that, in this contract you got from Bellator, I would imagine like you. I mean, look, I think it's you're 27. You're a senior fighter at this point, right? You've been a weight class champion. You could be another weight class champion by the end of the year, for crying out loud. Like this is a fairly big contract. In talking to them at all, was there any kind of specification about, hey, I want to be on CBS cards, or going back to this past year, hey, if we're going to be in Long Beach, can I headline? Were there any kind of discussions or stipulations about these kinds of parts of the fight game?
Not really. I don't really give a shit, honestly.
Really?
I don't care. I don't
I'm
care.
surprised to hear that. I would imagine someone in your
I
level
mean,
would be like a little bit like, hey, I deserve a couple of like bells and whistles or something like that.
it hit a little personal. Well, the check's all I need. You know what I mean? That's what I
It's
take care of
true.
my family with. You know what I mean? I pay all the bills. I'm paying bills. You know what I mean? I got my moms. I got my dads. I got a lot that depends on me, and I don't like to go into specifications of my life like that. But I don't think people see how much I do on the outside. So for me, it's about the check, man. Everything else is just for glory and clout. Like it's all cool, but that don't pay the bills for me.
In terms of the sponsorships, you mentioned that like you really want to lean into that. It's interesting. We had like once the UFC did what they did, it kind of changed the market for everyone, and people are still trying to figure out like how good could MMA sponsorships be. What is your imagination for yourself for what that could look like, and how much of terms of your overall income that could actually be? Like what percentage in that sense?
Um, well, we've had a few little hiccups in the mixed martial arts world from John Jones with Nike. There's just been multiple things that have come into place that have kind of threw monkey wrenches into the fight game that kind of have us portrayed as like animals in a sense. You know what I mean? So it's hard for companies to really get behind the mixed martial arts scene and just jump in full force. You know what I mean? And it's such a new sport. You know what I mean? It's been around less than 30 years, but yet it's one of the fastest and fast growing sports in the world. Like everybody watches it. So for me, I'm clean cut. You know what I mean? I'm not a partier. I'm clean cut. I love the kids. Like, you know what I mean? So for me, I could be doing anything. You know what I mean? That Snickers could be getting a free fucking commercial every time after my fight. And I got ideas up here that I would love to do, but it's like it's not happening. All right, then cool. You know what I mean? Like I said, maybe I go mess with Nestle and drop a Snickers bar and come up with a Butterfingers and be like, oh, sorry, I got Butterfingers. You know what I mean? Like there's just a lot of ideas that I have and things that I feel that could be marketed very well. And just bring different views into the mixed martial arts world. You know, I don't know. You got Old Spice, you got all kind of stuff, Head and Shoulders. You got everything that you could possibly do. Um, for me, I'm a big car enthusiast, so I'd love to get a car sponsor. You know what I mean? Porsche's the cream of the crop, perfection of excellence. Hello, here we got the undefeated guy. Like, let's go. It's just a lot of different little things. I'm not one to try to fit a sponsorship in my world that I really don't feel fits me. You know what I mean? Like every sponsor I have is someone I'm rocking with, and like it's this is it. You know what I mean? Monster, you got to unleash the beast. Newport Watch Club, bust me down, baby. You know what I mean? Got the Rollies, got the APs, got the Petites, the Richard Millies, like, you know what I mean? Seek headphones. I stay with music playing. Always got to have music. Like, I'm surprised I didn't bring headphones on this trip. And like, as soon as I got on the plane, I was like, damn it, I don't have my headphones. I was upset. You know what I mean? So it's just like little things like that. Biofuel. I'm big into the cars. Happy earth, happy car, happy me. Like, my little race cars run on E85. So biofuel, it's something I genuinely mess with. Undefeated was a big company that I've kind of watched Undefeated since I was a kid. And I felt that was something, you know, that even though now that I have a loss, like, I'm still undefeated in life. You know what I mean? That's something that you can't take from me. Like, you know what I mean? I'll always be undefeated. You know what I mean? It's a mindset type thing. Other than that, you know, Lululemon's about the new one. I'm messing with Lulu pretty heavy right now. You know what I mean? That's training gear and sweatsuits all day. Like, you're talking my style. Like, I'm in sweats when I leave the gym. I'm in sweats when I go to the gym, and I'm training all day. Lulu me out, baby. Like, you know what I mean? So
I think that line of clothing is called athleisure. Athleisure is the name.
Okay, athleisure,
Yeah.
leisure, the athlete. Make my life comfy and snug.
Well, I hope that they see this message, and just the same, congratulations on the deal. Hell of a deal. 6 more fights, as you mentioned, the 3 in the tournament. So we can't wait to see what happens with that this year as well. And we appreciate your time all the way from the UK. Thank you, AJ Mckee. Congratulations.
Thank you for having me. Peace and blessings. See you soon.
There he is.